The Indianapolis Colts had one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time in Peyton Manning, but when the franchise decided it was time to move on from him, they would have the perfect chance to draft his immediate replacement. The Colts took Andrew Luck over Robert Griffin III, and it ended up being a perfect move as Andrew was a generational talent and a Class A guy. Andrew Luck is my favorite NFL player of all time, and he was such a good player in person both on and off the field. Unfortunately, I will admit as a Colts fan that we kind of ruined his career, and we're the only reason why he ultimately had to end it all early. Today we'll talk about the rise of Andrew Luck, his time with the Colts, and why he could have been the greatest quarterback ever had he gotten the right support system. But first, be sure to subscribe, check out all my other What Happened To videos, give the video a like, suggest who I should do next, and stay until the end. Now let's get started and talk about what happened to Andrew Luck. Going back in time, his father was Oliver Luck, who played for both the Houston Oilers and was the commissioner of the XFL. He had his first son named Andrew, and as you can probably imagine, he was raised to be a football player. He wasn't raised in America though, as his dad became the commissioner of the World League of American Football, and Andrew got to grow up in London. He went to a very prestigious school, and actually grew up a huge fan of soccer, because it's obviously huge in Europe. The Luck family returned to the United States after his dad was named the CEO of Harris County Houston Sports Authority, and they moved to Houston obviously. Andrew attended Stratford High School, where he threw for 7,139 yards and 53 touchdowns in his career, and rushed for another 2,085 yards. He was just as smart off the field as he was on the field, as he was named co-valedictorian of his graduating class. Because of that, he was likely going to take his football talents to a good school, as that was very important to him. He had become a big-time recruit in the state of Texas, and was considered one of the best quarterbacks in his class. He chose Stanford over offers from Northwestern, Oklahoma State, Purdue, Rice, and Virginia because of the academics and head coach Jim Harbaugh. According to 24/7 Sports, Luck was a 4-star recruit, number 3 pro-style quarterback, and the 42nd best player in the class of 2008. Harbaugh was just getting things together at Stanford, and he's going to have a very big career there. After redshirting during his freshman year in 2008, he earned the starting quarterback job in 2009 over the returning starter Tavita Pritchard. Thereby, he became the first Stanford freshman to ever start at quarterback since Chad Hutchinson in 1996. With Heisman Trophy runner-up Toby Gerhart as his running back, Luck managed to still have a really good year as he threw for 2,575 yards and 13 touchdowns. He returned as a sophomore and broke out into a college football superstar. Luck led Stanford to a 12-1 record, a number 4 ranking in the final 8 people, and a victory in the Orange Bowl. He also led the conference in total offense with 3,791 yards, 3,308 passing yards, and 32 touchdown passes. He also ran for 453 yards, which was a record for Stanford quarterbacks, and also broke John Elway's touchdowns in a season record. He was seen as a big-time player and could have left for the NFL and probably been the number 1 overall pick, but he wanted to come back and finish his degree, which showed the kind of person he was and where his priorities were. In 2011, he came back and had a huge year. He led them to an 11-2 record, where they would lose to Oklahoma State in the Fiesta Bowl. He threw for 3,017 yards and 37 touchdowns, and finished 7th in the country, and Stanford finished 7th in the country. He finished 2nd in the Heisman Trophy voting for the 2nd straight year, and he was seen as the top quarterback prospect in the 2012 NFL Draft. But he would have some competition from Heisman Trophy winner Robert Griffin III. At this point, Peyton Manning had his neck injury, and the Colts had a down year, and because of that, they were going to be able to get the number 1 overall pick in the draft. Colts fans wanted Luck, but RG3 was also the shiny new toy, and some saw him as the better long-term player. The Colts ended up making the right choice, and suck for luck came true, as they drafted him with the number 1 overall pick, and they took the guy who was literally called the next Peyton Manning. As a rookie, he was instantly a star, and he changed the culture of the team immediately. In his first game, he'd go 23 of 45 for 309 yards and a touchdown, plus 3 picks, and the Colts would lose 41-21. The following week, he led his first game-winning drive of his career as they beat the Minnesota Vikings. In a game against the Dolphins, he threw for 433 yards, which was a record for most yards in a game by a rookie quarterback ever. After a comeback win over the Lions, he got his 8th win of his rookie year, which was the record for most wins by a rookie quarterback drafted number 1 overall. He led a ton of game-winning drives and led the Colts to an 11-5 record, where they lost to the Baltimore Ravens in the wild-card round of the playoffs. He broke the record set by Cam Newton for passing yards in a rookie season with 4,374 yards and 23 touchdowns, but a crazy high 18 picks. Expectations were high for Luck going into his second year, and they brought in his former offensive coordinator Pep Hamilton to call plays, and the hype for him was real. He helped them defeat the undefeated Seahawks, beat Peyton Manning in his return to Indy, and led them to a comeback victory over the Houston Texans, and they would eventually win the AFC South. They were matched up with the 5-seeded Kansas City Chiefs in the first round, but the Colts fell down by 28 points, and it looked like it was all over. Luck would lead a historic comeback and cap the game off with a 64-yard pass to T.Y. Hilton, and they took the lead 45-44. They won the game, and he threw for 433 yards and 4 touchdowns, and it was the second biggest comeback in NFL playoff history. Sadly, they lost to the Patriots the following week, and the season would end early for them. In his second year, he'd passed for 3,822 yards and 23 touchdowns again, but only threw 9 picks. 2014 is when things really took off for him, as he threw for 4,761 yards and 40 touchdowns, while leading the Colts to a third consecutive 11-5 record. In a Week 4 win against the Titans, Luck became the first quarterback in NFL history to throw for 370 or more yards, 4 touchdowns, and have a completion percentage above 70% in consecutive games. In Week 17, he'd break Peyton Manning's franchise record for passing yards in a single year, and became the 8th quarterback in NFL history to throw for 40 or more touchdowns in a single season. They easily beat the Bengals in the wild card round, took care of Peyton Manning and the Broncos on the road the following week, then had an opportunity to make the Super Bowl if they could just beat the Patriots. Sadly, the Colts could not get it done, as they lost 45-7 in a game that was honestly never close, but they used Deflategate to make it seem like it was a bigger deal than it was. This is where things began to go south for both Luck and his career, as he would start to face injuries. In weeks 4 and 5, he'd missed the first 2 games of his career with an injured shoulder. He would return, but it would happen again. On November 10th, it was announced that he'd miss 2 to 6 weeks with a lacerated kidney and a partially torn abdominal muscle. This was tough for him, but he would bounce back in 2016 with 4,240 yards and 31 touchdowns, but that shoulder had been bothering him all year, and the Colts would miss the playoffs. Luck underwent surgery for his shoulder, and he'd missed the entire 2017 season. He even apparently went to Europe for treatment, and football was starting to take a toll on his mental health and his body. People would start to get really worried about Luck, as Jacoby Brissett was the guy for 2017, but Luck would come back in 2018 and pull off one last miracle. The Colts had started out 1-5, and their playoff hopes were literally in the gutter. They then went on a 5-game winning streak on their own, and Luck had passes for 3 touchdowns in 8 straight games, and they were starting to show a glimmer of hope to make the postseason. They lost a really weird game to the Jaguars before they started winning again, and after a late game-winning touchdown against the Giants, they were going to be facing off with the Titans for a winner-take-all game for a playoff spot. Mariota had gotten injured, so Blaine Gabbert had to start instead, and Luck and the Colts wound up winning, and they got that wild card spot. They were set to face the Houston Texans in the wild card round, and the Colts took a demanding first half lead, held off the Texans' comeback, and then were matched up with the Chiefs the following week. The game did not go well for the Colts, and it was never honestly that close, and they were eliminated from the 2019 playoffs. Many people didn't know it, but this would be the final time Andrew Luck would ever take the field in a Colts uniform, and maybe even in a jersey forever. He was named the Comeback Player of the Year after he passed for 4,593 yards and 39 touchdowns. The Colts were real Super Bowl contenders going into 2019, but then out of nowhere, a bomb was dropped. He retired during a preseason game. Luck said, quote, "I've been stuck in this process. I haven't been able to live the life I want to live. It's taken the joy out of this game. The only way forward for me is to remove myself from football. This is not an easy decision. This is the hardest decision of my life, but it is the right decision for me." This was one of those days where you remember where you heard the news if you're a Colts fan, and personally I was watching the Miami vs. Florida opening college football season game when I saw the news, and I was really upset at first, but then I calmed down and I realized that Andrew Luck retiring could have been one of the best things that ever happened to the NFL. Call me crazy, but let me explain. He compiled a 53-33 career record. He tallied 171 touchdowns and had 23,671 passing yards with 83 picks. He had a career passer rating of 89.5, so obviously he was a great football player. This was a guy who was going to break records and could have been the best guy to ever do it, and he was someone that everyone looked up to, and this is why that decision I think is a good thing. Let's start with the most obvious reason. For once, we saw someone who had a ton of influence and was really good put themselves and their health first before all the fans and the game of football. Too often, us fans treat these players as non-human beings and forget how hard it is to constantly rehab, get injured, and sacrifice long-term health for fans who just pay to watch. Andrew just had his first kid as well, was recently married, and had the finances to live comfortably for the rest of his life, and more importantly, pain-free. He didn't enjoy what he was doing, he felt like he was going to let the team down, and he wanted to focus on his family and his own priorities, so why was it even a question that he considered playing football anymore? Just look at all the injuries he went through. He torn cartilage in 2 ribs, had a partially torn abdomen, had a lacerated kidney that left him peeing blood. He had multiple concussions, a torn labrum in his throwing shoulder, a mysterious calf and ankle issue, and the mental effects of the game were tough on him as well. Clearly, this was so tough on Andrew, he was in so much pain, and he was so conflicted with his decision, but he chose to walk away from the game of football, and once again, he put himself first, he put his health first, he put his family first, and when we try to talk about role models in our lives, Andrew Luck's the kind of guy you gotta look up to. Clearly, this was super tough on Andrew as he cried during the press conference. He talked about how much pain he was in, and that he was truly split on what he was doing. But like all the great ones, all the people we should be looking up to, he put his health, his family, and himself before all the fans, and honestly, that's really cool on his end. We love watching the game of football, but there will always be new stars to come in and new players to take their spots. And for the players we love the most, don't we want them to be happy and healthy and achieve what they want to achieve in life? And that's why I'm happy that Andrew Luck made this decision. He's spending time with his family, he has the money to retire, and he doesn't regret his decision. Andrew Luck could have been the greatest quarterback to ever play. He looked like he had the generational arm, he had the numbers, and he just had that it factor that made him seem like he was better than everyone else. And despite that, he was the most humble person on the field every week, and he made one of the best decisions we have ever seen in football. Ryan Grigson's inability to draft and put an offensive line together is what ultimately harmed Andrew Luck's career the most, and if you want to blame someone, blame Ryan Grigson. It's a shame that Andrew Luck had so many injuries, but he's happy, he's healthy, and he had a really great career at Stanford and with the Colts, and I'll forever remember and cherish watching him. What do you guys think? Do you guys agree with Andrew Luck's decision? What do you think of his career, and could he have become the best quarterback to ever play? Let me know down in the comment section, and let me know another NFL player I should take a look at next, and check out my other video about the rise and fall of Chuck Pagano, and until next time, peace.